Hello and welcome to the Loan Officer Wealth Podcast. This podcast takes you behind the scenes of very successful mortgage businesses across North America and shares with you the strategies, systems, marketing, and philosophies of these businesses and takes you behind the scenes of the structures of how these business owners are building such incredible mortgage businesses. Our goal with this podcast is to help you understand how to create and grow a mortgage business that makes you truly wealthy. And that includes both the money and the time that you need to truly live a life of freedom. Now, during these interviews, I look to pull out at least 3 incredibly valuable and life-changing tips from each guest, and they tend to show up near the end of each episode for some reason. So make sure you stay to the end. And when you find value in one of our episodes, please take the time to head on over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star rating and review. It makes a big impact on our ability to continue to attract top performers and give you incredible value on the show. So thank you for listening to the Loan Officer Wealth Podcast. My name is Chris Johnstone. I'm your host. Let's get started on getting you one step closer to wealth in your mortgage business. Hello, everybody, and welcome. We are blessed to have Mark Day with us here today. Mark, thank you so much for being on the show.
Sure.
Right on. So we were talking before we hit live here, and you were sharing your journey with me of where you came up in the mortgage industry and where you are now. Would you mind sharing that with our listeners?
Yeah, no problem. So I've been doing mortgages now for 19 years. And for the first 16 years, I averaged 4.2 to be exact, loans closed per month for the first 16 years. And then I found you guys, and I'm averaging between 10 and 14 loans a month now. So really have to take my hat off to you guys and everything that you've taught me, because it's just been a total mind shift of focusing so hard to, and Carlos said this several times before, it was harder for me to do 4 loans a month than it is for me to do 10 now.
Yes.
Absolutely. And it just blows my mind that that's the truth.
Yep. And it as you continue to grow, it gets easier and easier and more fun. You get to be that person that's providing employment to all of the incredible people on your team, phenomenal experience to your customers, and then with growth comes more money, and that always helps too, right?
Well, and that's been a big change too. I started my company about 2.5 years ago, and we've now grown to 21 people on the team. So it's been nothing but explosive growth, and it's been more and more fun. Like you said, it's been more and more fun the farther we get down this road.
That is amazing. So let's dive in to because this is a very dramatic change. There's probably a lot of listeners that are out there right now that are doing somewhere in the range of 3 loans to 6 loans a month, working crazy hours, working evenings, working weekends, and the one-armed paper hanger thing. They have to go get the business. Then when they get the business, then they got to do all the conditions. It's just a ton of work to get that done. So what was the first thing that you did after you joined the Freedom Club and Mortgage Marketing Animals and started investing in marketing and all those wonderful things? What was the first thing that you did to start to build the team and start to take control and make this growth?
So I remember I met with Ralph, was one of the first contacts that I had, and he just was explaining to me, we really need to have you put together this Acts of Freedom.
Yes.
And so I went through the Acts of Freedom, and I just started making a list of all the things that I was doing and all the things that I didn't even have time to get done that needed to be done.
Yep.
And there's this major guilt complex of, man, as I'm making this list, I now realize even all the details of things that I know would be great for me to get to that I still just haven't found time to get to. And then I just started hiring. I just said, okay, well, if I could take these things off my plate first, it would be awesome to hire a team member to handle just that.
Yep.
And so I hired somebody that took care of those items for me. So that was a loan partner. She'd worked with me at my previous company as a loan officer assistant. And I think the words mattered, because she was my loan officer assistant at my last place. And just the whole concept of loan partner
Yes.
totally changed um, the perception that I think my referral partners had of her, where it was just, okay, this is my equal. She does these things and I do these things. And at first, I felt guilty for asking her to do stuff that I didn't necessarily enjoy doing, but I knew it needed to be done.
Yep.
The more I realized that she loved those things, I was like, man, this is great. You're making a good living doing what you like. I'm making a better living than I have before doing what I like. And then I started just slowly adding loan officers and loan partners and processors. And I think being able to make the shift of the role of processor in my company. So I'll take the phone call on the initial phone call for a referral, and
Yep.
then I hand that to my loan partner, and she gets the application, gathers all the documents, locks, discloses, sends out the package for them to e-sign, and then she writes a green light email for the processor to know what title company we're using, what insurance agent we're using, goes through all those things, but we just have a very steady, clear process of this is what I do, this is what the loan partner does. And then once it goes to processing, I've had processors in the past that were just more of order takers,
Yep.
and they would take all the stuff that we'd done all the work to create, and then they would just throw it against the wall to see what sticks. And then the underwriter would come back and
Yep.
say, hey, you missed this and this and this. And so then the processor would then write me a lengthy email to say, here's the 7 to 10 things that we need you now to go chase the client to get, and then give them back to her. And she's the one that gets to take credit as if she found all those things.
Yep.
And just kind of picturing my business more as a conveyor belt,
Yes.
where I put it on the conveyor belt and then I pass it along, and there's no guilt anymore for having the conveyor belt run in one direction instead of two directions. And so that has helped me a ton to be able to say, I have a lot of great relationships with agents who now, instead of me feeling initially like they're going to trust me less and less
Right.
because I'm doing less and less of the detail work on the file, they actually trust me more because they know, like, yesterday I got back from being on vacation for a week and all my closings still happened. I think I took 2 phone calls from people that I wanted to talk to. I was just, I was up in Montana at a lake and riding jet skis on a lake and hanging out at a cabin with my family. And there just happened to be 2 of my friends that called me that they're friends because of business. But I took 2 phone calls the entire week that as soon as they realized that I was on vacation, they're like, oh, I can talk to your loan partner about this. Don't worry about doing anything with this information. And it's awesome. Usually I would get back from vacation to just mountains of work on my desk. And it
Yep.
was like, is it even worth going on vacation?
That's
Because whenever I do, everything gets so backed up that it's not even worth it because it's miserable getting ready to leave, miserable getting back from a vacation. And now it's just night and day different. I mean, I was gone for 7 or 8 days. I got back and yeah, I've got a bunch of stuff that I need to do because I'm back in the saddle, but it's not stuff that I'm behind on. It's just everything that I planned for me to do got scheduled for now, and I'm just back into my normal thing. Um, I used to work Monday through Friday, and I've always done a pretty good job of balancing not working nights and weekends, but there's always that stray person that would get through,
yeah.
and I would do work on a Saturday, even though I intended not to. But since I joined the Freedom Club, I've essentially stopped working on Fridays.
Yep.
So I work
Freedom
Monday through
Friday.
Thursday. Friday, I only take calls on Friday that I really enjoy. So if it's something that's happening on a Friday, I'm happy to do it just because I've got a smile on my face and got a weekend waiting for me, and it's no big deal. But I probably work about 32 hours a week. I never work on Saturdays or Sundays. Um, I guess I should take that back. There's probably been in the last year, I've probably worked 2 hours that were on a Saturday.
I'll
So
give you a pass on that. You're all right, Mark.
sometimes I let it slip, but really most often I'm working Monday through Thursday, and the machine is just oiled so well that there's not really anything that usually comes up on a Friday. Friday's more just maybe a project that I enjoy that it might have to do with business, but really in the mornings on a Friday, typically before the family wakes up, if I'm just awake anyway and I want to plug away on a project, then I'll do that. But unless it's a rare occasion, I usually am not working on a Friday either.
That is amazing. Now, to see where you're at right now and the free time and the freedom and all that wonderful stuff, in between where you were at 3 to 4 loans a month and doing everything and where you're at right now, there's a lot of fear. And I hear a lot of loan officers that go, well, I would love to hire somebody, but I can't because I can't hire a full-time person. How am I going to pay for that? Like I'm, barely getting by with as busy as I am right now. So what would you say about getting that money to hire the first person? How would you, how did you look at it when you were making that decision? And then how do you look at it now?
Well, I think when I was making that decision, I thought it's hard to imagine having an employee that gets paid guaranteed when I don't have a
Yeah.
guarantee. And so I totally understand the fear that goes into that decision. But anymore, I have so much more confidence in my ability to manage the team
Yep.
that I just feel like I know that if I hire the right people, they're not going to be an extra expense. They're going to be a bonus in income. And it basically, I'm just buying extra time in a day. So where I used to work my 8 to 10 hour days and just if I stretched to 10 hours, I was usually working 50 to 55 hours or something like that. But if I wanted to step up the amount of business I wanted to do, it was very hard to plan
Yeah.
to do more stuff because it was all me. And so it's kind of a challenge to get out of your own way. And I coach my loan officers now. The main thing that you need to know, we've already got the recipe card. Like
Yep.
we know exactly what you need to do that will be as successful as you want to be. You've already laid it out for me. I've got that plan of exactly what you said that you want. This is what you need to get it. But beyond having the right recipe that's been proven time and time and time again by so many people that I've met in the Freedom Club, I've got the recipe card. The only thing that you need to do now is get out of your own way.
Yeah.
Invest in yourself so that you recognize that the value that you bring is not necessarily in all of the tasks that you have to do in the old world way of doing mortgages, but the value that you bring are the relationships and the personal skills that you have of managing everything. And I like the way that Carl talks about being a conductor rather than a one-man band.
Yes.
Being able to know all of the parts because you've been there and you've done those parts,
Yep.
but knowing how to wave the wand just right so that the piccolos play at the right time and the cymbals go off at the right time. That's a whole lot more enjoyable than being the one-man band that here you're juggling all these things. And I remember times that it was almost more stressful getting a big deal in when
Yes.
you're already managing everything that you can. And now this agent that you've been working to work with for 2, 3 years finally gives you a bone and says, hey, you've been persistent and you've been good on the deals that we've worked on. I'm ready to work with you now. And you're like, I don't have time to work with this guy. Like I've been saying that I want to, but I'm doing everything I can just to keep my head above water.
Absolutely. And we talk about that a lot in the fact that oftentimes in the mortgage industry, there's this self sabotage that goes on that a lot of people don't even realize that they're doing to themselves. But when you are in that one man band position, and just as an aside, I'm after this, I'm going to go listen to some piccolo music because I have no idea what that instrument sounds like, but I'm going to check that out because now I want to know. But if you're in that one man band position, the last thing that you want is another instrument. The last thing that you want when you're so busy, you're working 14 hours a day and you're working evenings and you're working weekends, you're not doing the money making activities to grow the business because if you get more business, you know in your subconscious mind that that's just even more work. That's a 15th hour or 16th hour. So that's amazing. So the insight that you gave us there on employees don't take money, employees make money and they give you time is a very powerful thing for our listeners to remember. And so, Mark, when you get a new loan officer that comes in, you mentioned that you've got that loan officer plan for them. And it's like, here's the activities that you need to do to be successful. Very quickly, can you walk our listeners through what
Yeah,
that plan looks like?
for sure. So depending on what level of success they choose, the
Nice. I
plan
love
is
that.
it's the same recipe, it's just more of it.
Yeah.
So the way I describe it, and I think it's pretty. If you were to talk to Ralph and listen to his training on hierarchy of leads,
Yep.
I kind of talk about the 4 lanes of marketing, and that every loan officer is required to figure out what they're going to do with their 4 lanes. And the 4 lanes are, and depending on what order, like depending on where you are in the journey, you may choose to start on a different lane than another. But for me, that's going to be just ask, because it's the people that are already in the process. They're warm calls. You're going to call everybody every week to the borrower, the co-borrower, the listing agent, the buyer's agent, the title company. Maybe there's another title company on the other side, the insurance agent, and you're going to make all of these calls. Now, at this point, I have somebody making these calls for me,
Yep.
but to make those calls on every file, and you're going to give them an update. And then after you give them a 1 sentence update, then as you're getting off the call, oh, by the way, is there somebody else that's doing what I'm helping you with that might also benefit from the kind of customer service that you're receiving from me? So that's lane one. Lane two is the database, all of my
Yep.
past clients, family, friends, anybody that I have the contact information for. And one of the things I would highly recommend is don't discount those people that are just contacts in your phone right now.
Yes.
There's ways to help them to also give you an email, give you a, like one of the things that I would do if you have an incomplete database is consider sending out a mass text to all of them and just say, hey, I appreciate you supporting me in my business. I would so love it if you would be willing to introduce me to someone else that you know. Could you just send me the best? I would love to send you a couple of my business cards. Would you just send me the best address to mail those to? And then they give you their address. You can send them the business cards. Now you have that piece of information to add to your database. But being able to stay in contact with your database, phone calls, mailers, sometimes I'll have some events that I do for my past clients. Building that tribe of people that are working behind the scenes to help you be successful long term is so key. So that's lane number two.
And I'll
Lane
just add
number,
to that. We're
yeah,
currently working on getting your database as a custom audience and getting those social ads working, which I am really
yeah.
excited to see launch out.
And there again, there's the steps to the process of each of these lanes. Like 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I wasn't ready to have somebody else professionally help me with that
Right.
piece of it. Now I can, and now I can turn up the volume, and I can, again, it's not an expense, it's an investment to turn up the volume on that lane of my business.
Yes.
So then the third lane um, kind of depends on where you want to put these in order, but PALs, the pre-approved and looking,
Yep.
there's so many people that will act like they're interested, get pre-approved, they'll start looking for homes and get discouraged, or they're doing a refinance and they may ask you for numbers, you prove to them that they're going to save $300 or $400, and then they just wander off and they don't ever do anything. Being able to have a specific day of the week where that's your job is knock people off the fence. Just help them to choose. Even if they choose no, it's like valuable to still get a no out of them, just so that you don't keep on harassing them and spending more time and energy of your own to chase somebody that's not ever going to do anything. But to help people get off the fence one day a week is really helpful. And then the fourth one is Thor's hammer. Yes. And granted, if Carl sees this, he's probably going to be mad at me that that's the fourth instead of the first one. But Thor's hammer can be anything from the real estate agents that I already know, or the real estate agents that I don't know that are on the list. You can get the list of those agents that are qualified, agents that have done at least 6 or 8 buyer side transactions in your area. One service that I just signed up for about a month ago is MMI.
Yes.
And I hired a VA from the Philippines to help me to extract that list for the 4 different states that we're licensed in. And so inside of a month's time, he now has a list of 1,000 people in 4 different states. Now, any of the effort that we spend working with agents or to try to develop relationships with agents that I don't already know, they have to be on that list. And so and that list just tells me, okay, they're actively pursuing business. They're not part-timers that do 2 transactions a year, and they may just absolutely love me and send me 100% of their business. But if that 100% is 2 loans a year, that's pretty tough to work with.
Yep.
And so I think just being able to, those 4 lanes though, depending on what you're willing to set as a goal and believe that you can achieve, that just determines everything about how much you need to do with any of them.
Yep. I could not agree more. Mark, it's my goal in this podcast to pull out 3 golden nuggets, and you've laid out like hiring and the mentality behind hiring and the fact that they make you the money. That loan officer plan right there, that you could take just those 4 lanes and just those 4 activities, you could get yourself to $1 million a year in production, in income, I should say, if you just do those 4 activities and really, really well. Thank you for giving us so much value on this episode. We could talk all day, but we do have to wrap up. Now, if there's a loan officer out there that's looking for this level of support and potentially looking to join an incredible team with an incredible leader, how do people get a hold of you? How do people reach out to you?
If you just want to email me, my email is mark@remarkablehomeloans.com. That's by far the best way to start a conversation with me.
That is phenomenal. Well, thank you for sharing. And to all of our listeners out there, thank you for listening. If you found at least one of those golden nuggets today, make sure you head on over to iTunes, leave us a 5-star review for the podcast. It helps us get more incredible guests like Mark here on the show. So, Mark, thank you again for being here.
Sure. Thanks, Chris.
Awesome. Have a great day, everybody. Hey, it's Chris Johnstone. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Loan Officer Wealth Podcast. I hope that you loved it and got incredible value from it. Right now, it's time to head on over to iTunes and leave your 5-star review if you enjoyed this episode. When you do, you will be entered into our monthly draw to receive an Amazon gift card. So go ahead, leave that review today. It also helps us attract top talent and really get incredible interviews lined up for you so that we can share even more value for you. Now, for the show notes and for all of the resources that were mentioned in this episode, you can head on over to loanofficerwealth.com. That's loanofficerwealth.com. You get access to all the show notes from all the episodes, all the past episodes, get notified of new episodes when they drop, and we've also got some very special bonuses for you over on that page when you opt in. So head on over and opt in today, and we look forward to sharing the next episode of the Loan Officer Wealth Podcast with you soon.